Greetings, fellow visitors. This is Upgrade Terminal, a Star of Providence fan cast. I'm Malachi.
And I'm Nick. Welcome back to the facility. So today, we have a bit of a, let's say, an unusual episode of Star of Providence, because today we are going to be talking about, well, languages, but specifically conlangs. And to help with this peculiar topic, I have brought in an old friend of mine known as Nerd. Say hello, Nerd.
Hi.
Hello. It's nice to have you on the show. It's been a while since we talked, so it's a delight to have you here.
It's a delight to be here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thanks for joining us.
So for those of you who don't know, conlangs are constructed languages. They're basically fictional languages, although we can get into the nuances of that in a little bit. And how we relate that to Star of Providence would say like the runes or like the dialogue that Database 13 or DB13 produces. So it's going to be an interesting one for sure. But before we dive into that, we like to start each episode by talking about something nice that happened to us this week or recently, what have you. And Nerd, since you're our guest, you get to go first. Tell us about something nice that happened to you recently.
So it wasn't quite this week. I think it was the week before, but we have some family friends who are moving to be much closer to us, actually. And in the process of that, we got to see a lot of them, and one of them and my sibling and I went to a cat cafe, which was very adorable.
Oh, that's so cute. How was it?
It's great. It's only about a 10-minute drive from my house. The cats there are actually adoptable, so there's different ones every time as they get adopted out.
Mm-hmm.
And
Genius idea.
while we were there, they brought in some new cats, and the new cats were obviously a little bit skittish at first, but one of them got over this in about 5 minutes and proceeded to rub his face on everything and everyone. So that was extremely adorable.
Wow, that's such a nice thing.
Do they have some sort of like little mug that they can make like frothy milk for the cats or anything?
No, but you can give them a tube treat, and you can also get human food for yourself.
The human food is not tube shaped.
No, the human food is boba tea shaped.
Oh, nice.
Mm-hmm.
That is so. What a great idea to have like a cat cafe where you can adopt the cats.
Mm-hmm.
But it cracks me up that you were there and they're like, "Oh, new shipment of cats coming in." Just imagining the truck like backing up, beep beep.
No, it was a person
crates.
carrying in several cat carriers.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's really great.
Now I'm imagining Kleiness in a cat cafe.
I know. I was like, wow, that's actually like super topical for Star of
I
Providence.
think he would do that as long as you paid him.
Yeah, but he would like take charge real quickly and establish himself as the boss.
Yeah.
Yeah. He'd be making the coffee.
He would.
So if it's 10 minutes away from your house, have you been there before? And is it somewhere you're going to continue to go, Nerd?
Yeah. I'm actually planning to go again this week.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. I want to go to a cat cafe now.
Malachi, what's something nice that happened to you this week?
Well, this week, probably the most exciting thing for me, I've been super busy with work, so not too much going on outside of that. However, my Star Prov merch has finally started to arrive.
The Modos.
And yes, I've gone from someone with like one Star Providence shirt and 2 pins to someone with a lot more merch than I ever thought we were going to have. Mm-hmm. So the Big Mode Moto of the D13 ship finally arrived. It's a cute floating little ship drinking a box of orange juice with a couple of boxes of orange juice behind him, and
Mm-hmm.
Adorable.
it is adorable. I love it so much. He's like kind of smiling, it's like a very
Mm-hmm.
happy little ship.
Yeah.
This is obviously before D13's friend Noel, before D13 had to murder their friend. But they're very happy, and I have it on my desk now, and I couldn't be happier. And I'm also wearing my Renegade shirt from the Yeti.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh.
The most interesting thing about this shirt is Renegade is kind of winking, like one eye is open, the other's closed, but also the ship down below it is in a bubble, and it is not any of the ships that are in the game. And the shirt is cool enough that I can kind of forgive that, but it makes me really curious, like, did the artist look at screenshots?
Yeah, because if in Star of Providence is something that's in the bubble, it's like an item that you can acquire, and
Yeah.
it's very peculiar to be a ship that you can acquire. It's like,
Did Renegade capture this ship or something?
well, we don't know. I mean, there is like Arms Master is trapped in the gauntlet in some form, so maybe it's. I'm not sure what to make of it. I just know that we've been seeing a lot of people in the Discord server posting all of their merch arriving, and it's been a nice little thing to share among people.
Yeah, it's a great time to be a Star of Providence fan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Not that it wasn't before.
uh, I think like the fact that the long drought is over does make it a very good time now. Better than it was before.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I know the art for the Renegade shirt, I asked the developers about it, and it was commissioned by the Yeti, so like the developers weren't involved with it. So that's why I think they just got a cool artist. I don't know who it is. Sorry, I should have looked it up to credit them, but yeah, it's a very cool shirt, and I'm happy to have it. And I really hope as I'm wearing it out and about that someone will be like, "Whoa, Renegade!" And then I'll meet a fellow Star Providence fan.
Well, if it's a little bit off model, then I don't know about that. But it does make me think: were the previous shirts all made by Alex, like the original run? That's way out of print.
I've never asked, but I believe so. But that would be because it's got the runic text on it,
Yeah.
That's a question for the devs. We'll have to, if any of them are listening, comment below.
They're not showing up until episode 60 when we do the Fraxi episode.
Yeah, but yeah, that's about the extent of that. And I have one more shirt on the way, which is the when Lilac did their Summer Games Done Quick run. They had a promotional shirt of Fish and Noel, and that was done by Drew Wise, who also designed the box art for the motos.
Oh.
And that one, I'm very excited for that as well.
Man, I'm so glad I managed to catch that run live.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was a real highlight for the entire community there. It was. I'm very very proud of Taylor and couldn't
Yeah.
be happier with everything really.
Yeah, it was the most exciting GDQ run I've ever watched because I know the person and I know the game, and yeah, it was super cool. So Nick, what about you? What's something nice that happened to you this week?
I have a very tiny thing and then a slightly smaller thing. Like, so Malachi, if you remember, and I talked about this a long time ago, about how my dad is the one who makes coffee in the house, but the way he makes coffee is kind of like slightly ill-advised, let's say.
Mm-hmm. If I remember correctly, he grinds the beans and then leaves the grounds for a long time to sit for a long time.
Like, he grinds the beans the night before, and then come breakfast, then he brews them. So like they're just sitting there. Or also sometimes he'll like, I don't know how he does this, but like
Is
he'll.
that food safe?
We're all still alive, so
True.
It's food safe. It's food safe, but generally you want to use the coffee beans within 30 minutes, I believe, is what they say. Like, because otherwise,
as fresh as possible.
Yeah, as fresh as
honestly.
possible. Yeah,
And also when he pulls like the espresso shots, he doesn't tamp the coffee, so it's just like this mound that's very loose. So like today, like before, like an hour before we started recording, I'm like, I remember seeing a video about like, okay, how to make good espresso if you don't have good equipment at home, which you don't. and I just made a coffee for myself on this machine.
Mhm.
I'm surprised how well it turned out. I'm like, oh, for my first like attempt with this equipment, I'm legitimately very impressed. This was nice. This is why I'm so high energy into this episode. Like, I'm fresh from having a nice cup of coffee. But the
Oh,
other
nice.
thing,
No vibes.
yeah.
Yeah, no vibes.
But the other thing is that so one of the things that I do in my spare time is like I play Minecraft with What If Girl, who's a
Mhm.
friend of mine, and we just do creative mode, no survival, and we've
Yeah.
kind of realized that the thing we really like to do is just build houses. We just like to build houses. So she will take care of she will like look up exterior designs, like general architecture, and build them, and then I take care of the interior decorating. And
Mhm.
we've made like almost an entire village of just nothing but houses, and it turns out we just genuinely, it's a very nice, very chill pastime together. Like, it made me think of like, people who as a pastime are like, oh, I build like little train model sets, or like I build like, ships and
Yeah.
models. It
Yeah.
reminded me of that. It's just like we're just building houses and just having fun, and we have our own little areas of expertise. It's like, it's just very nice to have something chill like that, and like you can just vibe and just chill with someone. It's lovely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's very nice.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna have to build a Starprov themed house. A
uh
giant knoll, and you just walk in.
I
You
would
just
say
walk in through.
it would have to be two twin spires, one of them slightly
Yeah.
being destroyed, and like it's in the middle of a gigantic crater, basically.
Yeah, yeah, and then you could underneath it. You could build every floor color themed.
Uh-huh.
Oh, that's such a big enterprise. I don't know if I'm up to it.
Floor
Put
one. Floor one. There's a cat.
put floor 7 in the end or something.
Yeah, we could like it just like, well, that's the thing, because like the nowhere physically is kind of weird. Like, it can't be
Yeah.
there, so it makes sense that like it's an alternate dimension, question mark.
Question mark. You might have to get some mods in there or something. I don't know.
So, like I said, the main topic for today is going to be conlangs, or constructed languages. And like I said, we've invited Nerd for this, specifically her, because, well, Nerd, tell us a little bit about your background and experience regarding languages and conlangs.
Well, my educational background is all over the place, but
Mm-hmm.
I have taken a couple of linguistics courses, and mostly I just call myself a hobby linguist.
Mm-hmm.
What that means is I enjoy puzzling out other people's conlangs. I enjoy writing my own conlangs. I've done at least several partial projects of those.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoy trying to analyze conlangs even if I do know what they're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Um, even so far as to take words in video games that I know are gibberish and try and figure out what little I can from them.
Mm-hmm. I will. So I think a good example we can start with is Trash Talk from Nuclear Throne.
Oh, yeah.
Flashing. That's the only thing I know how to say.
Yeah, exactly.
I said more like flashen, like more stretching out the vowel a little bit.
Oh, sorry, my
Flashin'.
pronunciation is not as
Or
crisp.
something
I
like
need.
that.
Yeah, that's really cool that you've created some of your own.
Actually, one of the projects was to try and flesh out trash talk
Mm-hmm.
Oh
in a way
wow.
that made slightly more linguistic sense.
Because we only have like little fragments of the language, not
We
enough
have
to make something.
like 30 or 40 words of vocabulary and a few full sentences from that one trailer, but the grammar is really, really convoluted
So like
and or
the
inconsistent.
the available lexicon is even smaller than Tokipona, is what you're saying.
Oh, yeah.
Hmm. For those
It's
of you,
very
Tokipona is
small.
made to be complete. This is not.
yeah, Tokipona is a very simple and accessible conlang that has like 120 words. That's it, and a very simple structure, but is a complete language. You can communicate in Tokipona to express yourself.
Is that from a game or is it just a
No,
conlang?
No.
okay. Maybe Nerd, you can expound a little bit on like conlangs and like how they're grouped and such.
Yeah, I don't actually know a whole lot about Tokipona in particular, but not every conlang comes from a video game or even from a book or movie. Looking at you, Tolkien.
Mm-hmm.
Some conlangs are made to be. In the 1800s, there was kind of a vogue for creating so-called universal languages, or languages that didn't have the kind of arbitrariness we see in basically every language. Like, for example, the English word tree. Why does that sequence of sounds in particular refer to a tree? There's no particular reason, it's arbitrary.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's auxiliary languages, or auxlangs, which are made to facilitate communication between speakers of different languages who might not be able to understand each other otherwise. So Esperanto falls
Mm-hmm.
into that category, as does interlingua, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. So like there's different types of languages that exist for different reasons, as it were.
Yeah.
And what would you say? How would you categorize the conlangs that you spend your time deciphering or analyzing?
Mostly, I'd call those artlangs, which is a kind of a catch-all category for conlangs that were made just as a creative project or as a thought experiment, not with any particular real-life purpose.
Mm-hmm. Just for the joy of exploring linguistics, as it
Yeah.
were.
Yeah, I
Mhm.
love that term, artlang, like acknowledging that language is art and creating a conlang is an artistic
Exactly.
act.
It's a creative process.
Mhm.
Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's really neat. So where does your love of language and conlangs come from, nerd?
Um, I'm not entirely sure. Language in general is just really, really cool. As a kid, I got very hooked on the Inheritance Cycle, Aragon, that series of novels,
Oh
Mhm.
yeah.
in which, notably, a conlang grammar mistake is a major plot point.
Mm.
Oh wow.
Interesting. All right. But to some extent, language is just innately fascinating to you,
Yeah.
which is fair. It is to me as well, though. I've not. I'm aware of this sphere of this world, but I've never interacted much with conlangs. I'm bilingual, but I've not really interfaced with this much. So that's why we have you, who are you may not be an expert, but you're definitely more qualified than us to talk
Mm.
about it.
Yeah, that's most of my interests, honestly. And you guys are certainly more qualified to talk about Star of Providence.
Yeah, that's where we come in. Like, that's okay. How we make the connection between these two topics.
You guys are the reason. You guys are the one singular reason why I know about anything that happens past floor 5.
Well, I'm glad.
Nerd, one other question I have is, do you have like a personal favorite conlang?
Oh boy, that's hard.
Yeah. Okay. Well, maybe not your absolute favorite, but just one
Yeah.
you really like a lot. Just as an example for, listeners can look it up and kind of see what it is, how it works.
Man. Um,
It's a
Not to put you on
long
the spot.
list.
that is in fact a long list. Um, I guess it would depend on the listener, honestly. I have a soft spot for Mondoa from Star Wars because I am also a Star
uh,
Wars nut.
Mm.
Also, anything by David J. Peterson. So that includes High Valyrian, that includes
Oh.
Tzitzash, or however you pronounce it, from Elemental.
hmm.
Oh. Very
Okay.
cool.
Mm-hmm.
High
Now,
Valerian as in from what's it called? Game of
Game of
Thrones?
Thrones?
Yeah.
Yeah, as in that.
mhm.
Okay.
Now, Malachi, when I first pitched this episode to you, it's almost like you told me, oh, like I haven't heard about conlangs, and then I explained to you, we're like, oh wait, I kind of have heard a little bit about that. Like, and I'm curious, is like if you have like any point of reference for conlang, or if there's something you looked up that you enjoyed.
Yeah, well, I just wasn't familiar with the term, you know, and then when you explained it to me, I was like, oh, yeah, okay, so a constructed language.
Mm-hmm.
I'd never heard the kind of shortened abbreviation of it before, but I think much like nerd, I love language.
Mm-hmm.
I'm fascinated by language. Um, I am bilingual, and so learning a second language made me appreciate my own mother tongue even more because it sounds strange to say, but before I learned a second language, I didn't think as I almost didn't think of English as a language. That sounds really silly, but it was just like, oh, it just is. English just is, right? And
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
so, and I did love poetry. I mean, growing up, English was my favorite class, and you know, I've always been a big reader. But it's really fascinating how learning another language, and I imagine this is true even with if you're learning a conlang, but it teaches you to kind of take a magnifying glass and put it back on yourself and on your own
exactly.
language, your own linguistic habits and understanding. And so that to me is just fascinating. And I love that every language you learn is a kind of a new way to look at the world because of the culture that it's tied to. And so, I mean, for a language lover, I think a good conlang brings a world to life, right?
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Um, and again, nerd, you're correct to point out that there are art langs, and so they're just created for artistic reasons for the conlang to exist in and of itself. So this is not to diminish those languages, but for me, I've always loved conlangs in fiction, in worlds of fiction,
Mm-hmm.
and the
Hmm.
earliest example for me, and you know, nerd, you joke that we're gonna hit on the most common ones, or maybe Nick, maybe that was you, but it's definitely Lord of the Rings because
Mm-hmm.
I have a visceral
Yeah.
memory of being in the theater because I'm old, watching watching the Fellowship of the Ring, and
Mm-hmm.
for those who don't know, that the movie starts out, the screen is completely black, and you just hear this elvish whisper, and
Mm-hmm.
it's Galadriel, and then they have this English translation that comes over it, and man, I have chills right now just talking about it. Like it's such an effective scene, and it just pulls you in because I think a conlang, when used effectively in a world, just immediately gives so much depth to that world, and it just pulls you in. So
Yeah.
that's kind of the earliest example of something I loved, that scene in particular, but also just elvish in those movies in general. And
Mm-hmm.
then when I learned that uh you know Tolkien was a linguist, or at the very least he loved language and created a conlang for his books, my mind was blown. So
Multiple
Yeah.
conlangs,
He did.
yes,
actually.
yes, and
I've heard it said that that Tolkien came up with a lot of the history of Middle Earth purely to justify the development of Elvish.
Yeah. Yeah, and also like he created multiple languages, but he also like wanted to emphasize, what were the people that created these languages? What does it say about them that this
Hmm.
is how they speak and this is how they write?
Mhm.
The idea that the language encodes something about the culture of the people who use it, which it's true, and it is how conlangs can imbue a world with so much personality and history. Like there is a richness there. It's quite a lot of work to make a good conlang.
It is. Yeah, especially if you're trying to make your conlang naturalistic, if you're trying to make it sound and act like a language that developed naturally, like a real language or a so-called natlang.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that is especially hard because you have to deal with things like lots and lots and lots of complexity, like dialects. Oftentimes, half the battle is in pinning down your world building,
Mm-hmm.
um, how has your language changed over time? What are its closest relatives like? Um, and of course, the truth is stranger than fiction effect.
Yeah, because language is a very complex thing, and that does not exist in isolation. So you're trying to imbue it with the richness and the history of the world that it's in, but it's one of those things that if you're not careful, you can just spend an infinite amount of time developing it.
Oh, yeah.
So at some point, you just have to make the decision as an author. I need to stop here because otherwise, I'm never going to get this done.
I do not consider any of my conlangs to be finished projects for exactly that reason.
Yeah,
Yeah, you can't really iterate on something on a recipe if you don't understand all the ingredients, and
Yeah.
so like it makes sense that to build something like that, you'd have to have a very if you wanted to do it effectively, you'd have to have a really deep knowledge of language of whatever language your kind of base, your mother tongue or whatever, just how languages function in general.
You don't necessarily have to base a conlang on any real life language in particular. And honestly, the first step to learning to make a conlang is learning real life linguistics.
like to sort of understand what sort of linguistic structures do people tend to come up with or have historically come up with to encode their thoughts and ideas, to understand what are the all of the breadth of available options, because the more languages you know, the more ideas you can come up with, like, okay, what is this conlang going to be different? Because you can imagine someone who only knows Germanic languages or Romance languages would tend to have a smaller idea of what a language can
Yeah.
be. But if you know a big spread, you're like, oh, these are all of the weird and strange and fascinating ways where these things happen. Now you really understand how much freedom you have, and also, yeah, you're gonna have to come up with all of this. Good luck.
Yeah. The more limited your language knowledge is, the easier it is to make assumptions without even realizing you're making them. Like, I see that a whole lot with a lot of my older conlang projects. Like, this just looks like English with some French syntax tacked on and a weird phonology.
Yeah, like we're getting a bit into tangent, but I'm going to say it. I assume you're aware of the channel Conlang Critic, or like the series Conlang
Yes.
Critic. Yeah, I remember a few episodes where he examines his languages, and it's like, this was made by a person who mostly speaks English, right? And
Uh-huh.
you can find the little things that you can tell, like, oh, these are things that happened a lot in English and not so much elsewhere. That's a clue of someone who like didn't wasn't creative enough, let's say.
Hmm.
Yeah, and then on the other hand, you also don't want to make what's called a kitchen sink conlang. Just stuff all of the weird features in there. At some point, like, any theoretical speaker community is going to simplify some stuff down
Mm-hmm.
for ease of use.
Yeah, like it has to ultimately be practical if it's going to be spoken by actual people.
There may be as many exceptions as you want, but there has to be a rule to accept from.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something has to make sense at some point.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
The thing is, I don't. Yes, I'm aware of Tolkien and such, and the thing is, I don't know a conlang, like know it. Like I'm aware of the existence of conlangs, but I don't have a favorite one.
Hmm.
I am going to mention one just because I know it's going to be slightly more obscure, but it's the Dunny language from the Mist series.
Oh.
And
Hmm.
the thing about, like, I am not aware, but the reason why I like it is because the Dunny as a people have this power, this ability to write on special books and to create worlds, and then you can travel to those words that have been written. And a big part of at least the
Whoa.
plot of the first two games is, you know, how how do I express it? But like part of it is like how you need, if you have a malformed or an incomplete book, that causes disaster in the world of the book. You know, the idea that not just the idea that writing influences reality. And here it's in a literal sense, but it's kind of like I think the plot of the second one, it's like there's two people trying to write on that are like taking turns writing a world, and one of them is being very sloppy and very haphazard, and the
Mm,
other one is desperately trying to patch up what's happening.
yeah.
And I pick this one because it is sort of tying back to this idea of like, look, the word language influencing reality. And in here there's a kind of a supernatural magical link, but there is some actual truth to that as well, which
Hmm.
we can get into in a little
So
bit.
the the Mist games, is that what you're talking
The
about?
Myst series, the first game was called Myst, then it was
Mhm.
Ribbon, and like those are the main two that I recognize. But there is an actual constructed language in there, and it is a proper language with structure and vocabulary and all that.
Oh
But
wow.
it is also like the means by which the Dunny people kind of create worlds, in a
Hmm.
sense. And I picked it because
Mhm.
of the connection between this episode.
Is part of the game kind of like sussing out the meaning of the conlang?
Not exactly. You do read the books, you
Hmm.
and you do see fragments of it, and you do get to see it has even its own script, which means its own writing system, and has a base 25 numbering system as well.
Oh, cool.
And you do need to know the base 25 numbering thing, because that is relevant to a couple of puzzles. Like, you need to know that that's how these people count numbers.
Hmm.
Yeah, but
That's
it
really
is
cool.
it is not something you need to directly interface with, but like if someone knows the language, you can read the texts in there. But it's not a requirement.
There, you can say things to other people if you learned it. Like, would you
You
like to write a world with me?
you could, if
Wow.
you're sufficiently nerdy, which
I
we all are.
I
Which we all
never knew
are.
that. I never knew that Mist had a conlang in it. That's
Oh yeah,
fascinating.
it absolutely does.
I also didn't until earlier today preparing for this podcast.
My favorite example in fiction is actually have either of you seen Denis Villeneuve's 2016 film Arrival?
Oh, yes.
So I think any like this movie is like if you're a fan of language or linguistics, like you kind of just gotta like let go of like the reality of language a little bit, because it's not totally realistic, but it's very fascinating nonetheless, in my opinion.
I
Hmm.
had a friend show this movie to me specifically because they know that I'm a linguistics nut.
Hmm.
Yeah. Well, for those who don't know what happens, I'm not going to go through the whole plot, obviously, but the movie starts with aliens coming to Earth and they're trying to communicate. And so what's awesome is instead of like the government being like shoot at them, they're like go get the linguists. And so Amy Adams plays this awesome like badass linguist, and so they kind of enlist her to try to help communicate with the aliens, which is just such a fucking awesome plot. But so everyone is kind of racing to try to figure out how to communicate with them. And the language is heptapod B as opposed to heptapod A, which is the vocal language that the aliens use. But heptapod B, it's like a truly alien looking language. It's what's called a semasiography, which a term I did not know before I did research for this episode, but it's something that communicates meaning through visual symbols without relying on spoken language. So the heptapods have two separate languages, basically, their spoken one and their written one.
Hmm.
And when they made the movie, they actually made a dictionary with over 100 alien words in it, and they could actually write in it. And the film feels so much more realistic because of how much thought they put into it.
Hmm.
Um, and the movie also ties into, this is kind of spoilers territory, so if you don't want to get spoiled on a 9-year-old film, it kind of ties into the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis that like the
Hmm.
language you speak directly affects the way you perceive reality. It really
Hmm.
plays into the plot of the movie. But I think it's such a cool example of some people going to great lengths to create a very convincing conlang, and
Yeah.
it's such a great movie. I'm assuming you liked it, Nerd. Did you enjoy
Yeah,
it?
I loved it.
Oh, yeah, it's great.
Okay. So I think we've laid enough groundwork to maybe talk about Star of Providence for a little bit.
Yeah, let's fly back to the facility for a moment here.
Okay, so I'm gonna we're gonna set the table first. So,
Mhm.
as far as we are aware, and I have no reason to believe otherwise, Star of Providence does not really have conlangs. There's no hidden language hiding in the game or anything like that. We did have a lovely ARG pre-release with the webpage and all that, which was a wild ride, but there's no conlangs here that we are aware of.
Unfortunately, I was not aware of that when it happened. I hadn't actually heard of that, Nick.
Oh, do we want to talk about it now or later? Because I can do either way.
Let's stay on topic.
Yeah, we can talk about it later. I will say, Nick, that if I may interject here briefly, that I've mentioned this before, I believe, on the podcast, but when I ran into Pure Question at PAX West last year, I was wearing my Monolith t-shirt, my Star of Providence t-shirt, and Pure was like saying he could read the runes on my shirt, and he was like, oh yeah, that's what it says. So if that's not real, it was truly masterful trolling. So kudos to you, Pure Question.
Because Pure would never mess with players.
No, I know he would. So that's why I'm just like, it was very convincing, and that's hats off to Pure Question on that, if that was him trolling me.
On the one hand, I would not put it past Pure to troll like that at all. On the other hand, what if it was real?
In the new logo for Star of Providence, if you look carefully in the background behind the letters, you can see a series of 8 runes, and they could be a 1-to-1 sort of cipher that says monolith. It could be. It's possible.
Are the second and fourth repeats of each other by any chance?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's the exact same glyph. Now, I want to stress, we don't have evidence that this is like respected across the appearance of the runes across the game. Like, this could be just like, an Easter egg. We don't have any evidence that there's like words encoded.
All the same, I could hear Nerd's eyes light up.
Oh yeah, that was super obvious. Yeah.
Yes, I am very predictable, okay?
And we love you all the same. Anyway, so yeah, as far as we know, there are no conlangs in Star of Providence. What we do have are potential scripts, which are like writing systems. And we have, correct me if I'm wrong, Malachi, we have at least 3, which is like the red runes, which you see in like the runic weapons and the nimbuses and like the pause screen in 4, 5, and 6, all of that stuff.
Scrambled boss names?
Yes.
Technically, scrambled boss names.
Like, before a boss name comes up, it'll do some scrambled letters.
It goes from runes to English. That was always my reading of that. It was like, it's written in runes, and then it goes into English so we can read it.
It's just English letters the entire time, though.
Oh.
It's scrambled English letters. This is where we got like the funny like memes of like people going up against machine and taking screenshots, and the name is just complete gibberish, but it is always like Latin letters. It's never runes.
Wow, I never noticed that.
I'd love to fight a boss called...
Yeah. I'm personally a fan of... That's my favorite boss. Sorry, Nick, go on.
Yeah, we have the red runes. We have the white runes of Chaos God, which are different. Technically, we have the green runes of Warden, but they're all just question marks, and not much there.
They're just pure questions.
Yep.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm sure that joke has been made before. I'm sure.
Hey, I hadn't heard it.
Wow, okay, I guess you spend less time on the server than I do. And finally, we do have the weird text that you see when you fight Database 13 or Point 13 or Data Angel. It has many names because, well, technically it has a name. It has no name presented to you, and we can talk a little bit about what it means to have or not have a name in a little bit. So those are the scripts that we have available. And again, as far as we know, there's no language there, but it is interesting that the devs definitely are saying there's a language-like thing here. Like
Yes.
it says something about the world, that there is a writing system here, and it is illegible to you, but presumably to the council it meant something, I
Yeah.
imagine.
Yeah, and because of those scripts, language is part of Star of Providence, and especially with like the runic weapon. I mean,
Exactly.
the runes are floating around you, and that, to me, I've always interpreted that as language, right?
Hmm.
Giving you power, like the power of those runes, the power of that of the language giving you, a lot of people
And
don't like that gun. It's still my favorite, but
I mean, it's cool. Whether it's cool or effective are two different questions.
it's cool, but it's not Satan lasers.
But yeah, so one of the things that, as we just said, and it is something that is alluded to in multiple works of fiction, is that language itself has a kind of power.
Yeah.
In this game and in other fiction, it tends to be a kind of magical, supernatural power, but there's still this recurring sense of speaking something is to, in a sense, to do to do something, to you have a power over it,
Mhm.
and it is this. I did write this down in my notes. One of the things you see a lot in video games is that whenever you have a character that has a class which specializes in casting magic, if you inflict a status effect that prevents them from doing that, it is often called silencing, as in you are preventing them from speaking and thus to perform the act of uttering a magic spell. So again, it's this idea of like magic occurs through word, through either spoken word or written word.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It-
if I want to cast Firaga, I have to shout Firaga. Yeah.
mhm. Or fireball.
Fireball.
Yeah. Or like there's the trope of like there's a magic scroll, you speak it aloud and the spell happens.
Mhm.
It is the
Yeah.
idea like it is the act of speaking, the language that causes magic to happen. And in a world in which we know that there are 7 schools of magic, they've tried to summon something to give them life eternal,
Mhm.
and everything went horribly wrong afterwards. It does bring to mind like, okay, this language, these runes are supremely powerful. You could use this to maybe live forever, maybe destroy an entire planet. Who knows?
But, this is what they came for, isn't it?
I mean, it is, and they got exactly what they were asking for. And we all know how that turned out.
Hmm.
Nick, I don't want to derail what you're
No,
talking about, but
please. I'm
okay,
talking too
so
much already.
I think that there's a case to be made that I think it would add a lot to the game if they expanded on the language. And that's
Hmm.
kind of something in my heart of hearts that I hope they do in the future, because I think having a Starprov conlang would make the world feel just so much deeper, kind of like I said about other stories I enjoy. I mean, it would be really cool for the community to have even just a couple cool words we could
Yeah.
use.
Hmm.
But
I totally agree.
yeah.
I am also biased, but
We
Yeah.
all are.
Yeah, as am I. But I've imagined that like the archives, I've always imagined that there's probably like a lot of language there, right?
Mhm.
Like you could
oh
go
yeah.
and find out about, piece together the language and slowly start to translate it. Kind of like, I don't know if either of you have played the game Returnal, and there are a lot of games that do this, but like on a really simplistic level, you come into contact with an alien language, you can't understand it, but the more kind of like pieces of the world's Rosetta Stone that you find, you can kind of like slowly start to suss out meaning. I always love it when games do that. That would be really
Yeah.
cool.
I haven't heard of that game specifically, but I've heard of several others that use that as a mechanic. Sethian, Tunic,
Hmm.
Chance of Sonar.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Oh, I still haven't played Chance of Sonar. Oh man, I
Me
gotta play
either,
that.
actually. I really
Jeez,
need to do that. I
that
have
yeah
it.
that sounds like catnip for both of us, for all three of us. We gotta
But,
play that.
but there is the problem of like, well, you have to come up with a conlang, and it has to make some kind of sense. Obviously, if we're talking about a council of wizards, they're not particularly concerned with making things easy for the layperson, so it could be very arcane, as it were.
Yeah.
But it used like team to team would still have to create a language and have it be
Uh-huh.
consistent and find a way to make it fit into the game in some sense.
Yeah, to make it, if this is going to be a language of power in some sense, like you mentioned, Nick,
Mhm.
I love that trope, especially when it's done well, which is difficult. Like, okay, so let's say you have this language that does magic. Now your next sort of task is to figure out how
Mm-hmm.
and why and what are the specifics
Mm-hmm.
and what happens, say, if you mess up,
Mm-hmm.
or like what does developing a spell take, what does casting a spell take, and also the how and why of all of that. There's so many interweaving questions here.
Yeah. And it makes me like sympathize with Team 13 for being like, you know what? Let's just sidestep the issue entirely. The entire language is completely illegible to you, so like we don't even have
Yeah.
to bother. And like they were already like suffering 5 years of scope creep, so it's like, yeah, let's just ship this. We gotta ship
That's
this
fair.
someday.
Yeah.
But like I think we mentioned this on one of the season one, which is like, yeah, maybe the archives do have all of this information, but it's all like gibberish to you. It is
Yeah.
completely inaccessible to you, and maybe the knowledge is completely lost.
Yeah, even so, like, you don't especially if the language isn't necessarily tied into magic. Like, there could be plenty of books in the archive that are not inherently magical, that are
Mhm.
just books.
Oh yeah.
And
There's a ton of graphic novels down there.
yeah, there's the eternal coffee recipe.
Oh yeah. Now we're talking. The first one we got to translate right there. That's what Noel's drinking.
Yeah.
It's such a shame we that book on the Crawler Kingdom got burned forever. Real shame. First edition copy.
Curse you, firewall!
Yeah.
Yeah, Firewall doesn't seem like much of a reader.
No.
If only we knew, some sort of like hobbyist linguist that has played the game that could like maybe help the developers piece together and create a conlang.
It has to be something that the devs are willing to take on as like,
True.
it's going to add development time. It's going to, and like that's the thing. You develop the language. Okay, now you have to make sure that all of the entries of the language across the entire game remain consistent, and there's not some rogue entry that uses different syntax or grammar, and that's suddenly like, oh, wait, so how does it work again? It's
Yeah. I just
keeping
wanted to put that thought out in the universe,
I would love
Uh-huh.
that to happen, but I also like, Nerd will just tell you how difficult it is to just make a conlang before you even trying to add it into a game and somehow make it part of the gameplay loop. It's a lot of work.
I wouldn't, honestly, in a game like this, I wouldn't suggest making it part of the gameplay loop per se, but it would be so awesome if there were, like, Easter eggs. If there was
Yeah, for those that wanted to
lore that you could
dig.
eventually puzzle out, just not while you're being shot at and having to dodge and aim at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yeah, no, that's totally fair. I agree with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it would be cool if it was just something that existed in the game that
Yeah,
wouldn't get in the way, right?
Mhm.
exactly. Like, maybe the trader tells you about it, or there's things that you can in the archives that will show up to read after you've cleared a room, or what have
Ooh,
you.
maybe you could trade the trader for like texts that they'd found,
Ooh, or like in excavation rooms that often have no enemies in them.
Okay, we're cooking now.
Now we're clearly fast.
Yeah. So this is debatable, but my interpretation in the game has always been that Power Eternal is speaking to the characters, right? Like in the terminal. I always take that voice like, pick one of my magic powers.
So I think you and I have discussed this, like our personal interpretations of Paternal, and yours almost seems to be like almost like a demon that's like tempting you. It's trying to ask you to like, yes, give in to the power, like interface with me. I will give you this power, and you will become a vessel for me. And my interpretation is a bit more alien, which is just the power eternal is this thing that is extremely powerful, but that you don't understand, but you are fascinated by it, but you just don't know how it perceives you, what it wants from you.
Yeah, I do think it has a will of some sort.
Mm-hmm.
What that will is, beyond possibly, like, destruction, I have no idea.
Well, okay, yeah, I noted that like we do think about it differently, but for me, I like to imagine like, okay, if it's speaking, what language is it using, and
Good point.
and just touching back on the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis, like how would interfacing with power eternal, which is this eternal power that has existed, how would that alter like someone's perception of reality, right? If it's using this really interesting language. And it kind of reminds me of the Carol runes in Bloodborne. I don't know if either of you have played Bloodborne, but Bloodborne has a lot of really interesting things about language as well, because basically there's these deities called the Great Ones, and they can't be understood by humans. And in fact, trying to understand their existence and their language often leads to madness.
Yeah, not a
But
good idea.
yeah, but if you study it and intuit meaning from it, it can alter your perception of reality. So that's like something I thought would be pretty cool too. If you're like, as you go on and you're interfacing with Power Eternal and learning more about this runic language, if it's kind of shifting and altering aspects of the game world, that'd be freaking awesome.
Well, Null does interface with the Power Eternal, and
Yeah.
they do change.
It's true.
And
a lot.
Yeah, it doesn't work out
They become egg.
Yeah, Null egg.
It also makes me think of the correspondence from the Fallen London universe, which
Ooh.
You maybe don't want to read too much of, not because it'll make you go insane. I mean, it might make you go insane, but because it can be physically detrimental.
Mhm.
Also, things that it's written on tend to catch fire.
Yeah, but okay, so we're coming back to this idea that the writing itself, this particular script or perhaps font itself is imbued with some kind of magical power.
Yes.
Which is what these runes are in the world of Star of Providence. The runes themselves have a kind of power, and this is most directly seen as, okay, you have a runic weapon, you have runes flying around you, and you summon power through them to like destroy enemies.
Don't the bullets come from the rune circle?
Yes. It is. Here's the funny thing: all of the weapon types in the game are things that are very concrete or tangible. It's a fireball, it's a revolver, it's a drill, it's a spear. Runes are the only one that are like, no, this is just something else entirely. This is something magical that has no well-defined physical form other than just runes.
Heck,
which
even
makes
a thunderhead you can see on screen real easily.
Yeah, runes are the exception to the rule. And by the way, I will say this, I've said it many times, I'll say it again. Runic uniques are some of the most weirdest weapon concepts in the game, and I love it for that.
Yeah.
Nick, you made an awesome connection to some text that I believe is on the Star of Providence website.
Oh, right? Yes.
Time to go check that out. Wow.
So yeah, on the Team D13 website, if you check under Star of Providence, I'm just going to do it right now because I want to get the quote verbatim, so I don't get it wrong and embarrass myself. So across the history of the game, there has been a lot of promotional material, Steam pages, all that stuff. But if you go to the actual website and you check under Star of Providence, it will say, and I quote, they say, long time ago, there existed a font of incredible strength, as old as time itself. Granted at least to the world's future, it brought forth technology that rivaled all feats of imagination, until... And it stops there. And Nerd spotted right away, when I mentioned this the other day, the double meaning of font, as in a source, a fountain, something from which spew force, but also the typographical meaning of the word font, which is just a series of letters that are encoded. And in a sense, that's what runes are. They are a
Mm-hmm.
font in both sense of the word, both
Mm-hmm.
senses of the word, of power.
Yes, and there are multiple fonts of incredible strength in the
Mm-hmm.
game. And after you made
Mhm.
this connection, Nick, it blew my mind. I will never be the same.
Yeah.
Well,
This is the
because
kind of stuff that super fans and like hyper fixated super fans such as myself, yeah, I'm gonna be chewing on this one. There's a lot of meat on that bone.
You can't see it, but I'm raising my hand right now.
yeah, well, the thing is, I have obviously spent a lot of time looking at Star of Providence in like websites and everything. This line of text seems to be only written in this place, only in the main website, which just struck me. It's like that's an interesting thing to notice. That's a very deliberate decision from the part of the devs to say that.
It is.
Huh.
And the fact that
Interesting.
it exists means that, I mean, we can interpret it however we want.
Hmm.
Yeah,
That's what we do.
Yep.
that's
And it
what I do.
is yeah, I love the wordplay there, and I'm so glad that you pointed that out to me. It's
Hmm.
awesome.
Yeah.
A font of incredible strength.
Hmm. Yeah.
Comic Sans.
Da 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 da
The
da da da.
exact fucking brainwave. Yeah. And one more connection I did want to mention is that
Mhm.
uh, as I said, one of the last sort of script that we see is in DB13, which is
Or
like
whatever it's called.
many names it has. Actually, no, it has no name, so people give it multiple names because we need a name for it. We need to refer to it somehow. You
Yeah.
know, it's interesting because the game makes a big deal of like when you fight a boss, it shows you its name in big letters. It's always,
Ice worm.
yeah, or ordinator or renegade. It's always notable when the game doesn't do that. When it's like you have there's this absence of an identifier.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And you see it with machine, you see it with point zero, and you see it with, well, DB13. I will say it, the technical name that the code uses is corrupted point zero, which is a name that not many people actually use because it's not as cool as all of the others we've come up with, to be completely honest.
Yeah. Honestly, that's from the code. Kind of like Word of God isn't quite canon. I wouldn't even consider that quite canon.
Well, we get to things like death of the author and things like that. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
and like to some extent we already do that in the community because people love to like theorize and say, well, it could be this. And even if we say, well, the dev said it's that, I'd be like, okay, but what if we just assume it can just be the thing that I like?
Yeah.
And that's fine. That's totally fine. It's okay to have your own interpretation. Anyway, getting back on topic. The one more thing I want to say. Okay, so they have this boss, DB13. I just call it DB13, but you can call it whatever you want.
Mhm.
Which we know it comes from database, which is explicitly it's a database. It has been coded to contain something. People maybe think it's the Akashic records of some kind that are in the thing. Could
Mhm.
be. But there's one more connection of like language and magic, which is coding, programming. You
Yeah.
are also using a language, a programming language, to make something happen, and you enact power over some system in that regard.
I
Mm.
love that trope, honestly. I love when written magic is connected to programming because how else are you going to do it, really? Like, if you're using magic to. If you're using writing to direct magic,
Mm,
then what are you doing? You are giving the magic very specific instructions on, like, depending on the system, I don't know, how much power to draw, how to direct it, how to shape it, how long it should go for, any fail safes, yada yada yada.
mhm.
That's just a program.
Yeah, in a sense, you could say, well, magic is a kind of program. Like, you have to follow a specific set of instructions to get the desired result. And if you do it poorly, something bad's going to happen, or just I don't know, it just fails. It just nothing happens. But I like that the game reinforces this connection of like magic and programming are kind of similar and they're both connected to language.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Error. Spell slots not found. I will say that one of the things I was doing before getting on this podcast was taking a screenshot that Nick had showed me of the Morse code looking text before the DB13 fight, because let's be honest, I'm probably never going to get to that thing myself.
Yeah, a lot of people can't. That's
But
fine.
It's tough.
taking one of Nick's screenshots and just attempting to find patterns, some kind of sense in the nonsense.
Mhm.
And there are some repeat characters, and I didn't
Hmm.
have enough time to really analyze all of them
Mhm.
or um, figure out whether there were any wider patterns, like more than character level, or even figure out for sure what constitutes a character. And that's honestly really interesting to me. I'm not expecting to get any actual meaning out of this ever at all.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm what I may be able to do though is at least figure out, like, how long does a word tend to be? Can I even tell what counts as a word, where word boundaries are? Because, like, even with real life scripts, you can,
Mhm.
if you're looking at them closely enough, analyzing them, you can sometimes tell, okay, in this one you don't see a whole lot of repeat characters, but in this one you do. In this one you see a lot of repeat patterns of characters. Those might be digraphs, and that might be an alphabet as opposed to a logography or
Mhm.
something like that.
Or an
Mhm.
abugida.
Yeah, all I could tell is that there are some repeat patterns in the Morse codey looking stuff.
Mm-hmm.
There are spaces of different lengths, definitely. Um, Little tiny ones, slightly longer ones, and then really long ones.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and the structure of the characters is just like dots or lines of varying length on
Mm-hmm.
4 lines stacked on top of each other. Which I'm not sure if that's significant, but that's all I know.
Well, I think it's cool that you did analysis, and if you do any continued analysis, yeah, we will be very curious to hear your thoughts.
But you kind of do need a greater lexicon, like basically
Yeah.
more data points
Uh
to
huh.
analyze.
A small data set never helped anything.
Yeah. I mean, I do think it's interesting. And I imagine to some extent, I'm imagining this was Alex. Alex made it put like, well, this looks cool. This looks like a system that could conceivably encode a language in it. It
Yeah. It
doesn't
looks
necessarily.
visually very cool without necessarily meaning anything. And honestly, I feel like one could add that kind of thing to the archives as well. Maybe not necessarily the same language, but
Hmm.
something like that.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Is there anything here to read? Who knows? But it looks cool and at least semi consistent.
Yeah. There's definite. I think it would be super awesome to have something like that. And like one thing I'm slightly miffed out on that we don't have is like I would like if like the runic weapons themselves each had like a word attached to them, like the idea of like, yeah, you are wielding a word in a literal sense. That is
Yeah.
what you're using.
Like, if they have a ring of runes, make it say something different.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that'd be cool.
Hmm.
You do find in later loops like a scrap of paper on one of the weapon troves.
Yes.
And when I first saw that, I was so excited because I was like, "Oh my gosh, we're gonna there's gonna be some language on this." And
No,
not really,
no.
not really.
It does replace the instances where you see Clinus sitting on a weapon trove, but that gets replaced by this scrap of paper.
I was about to say, is it a bill from Clinus?
No, it you just I think it's just a list of names.
It actually does. You don't. It doesn't show you anything. It just says you can't make out anything. All the writing on the page is illegible. It's just a list of names or something like that.
Which reminds me of that thing when you are in the looping room and you read where the bestiary usually is, and you just see it's just scraps of paper on both, written on all sides, just full of text.
Yes.
But again, what the text actually says is always withheld from you.
I would love a visualizer of the text, though.
Yeah.
I'd love that.
Yeah, and like maybe it's just like again, there's always the consideration, like the pragmatic choice is to just not have to worry about it. Just like, okay, it would be such a lot of work, and it is
But
a commitment.
cooler choice.
It is the cooler choice, and the devs do make decisions based on it's cool sometimes.
Yeah.
Ace is like the fucking. It's really Ace. The new boss is super cool. The new bosses in general are super cool. It's all amazing, but the thing is, we know that in this world, this is a thing that exists. It's just something that the player itself cannot interface with, which is slightly frustrating, but it does make me happy that they've pretty explicitly saying, yeah, there is a kind of language in this world that is magical, and there's multiple even.
Yeah.
And like the wielding the power eternal is in a sense having a little bit of that, but I do wish it was more fleshed out.
Someday I will survive Chaos God for just long enough to take my own screenshots.
Uh,
I'm not saying I'll ever beat Chaos God, but
I believe in you. I believe in you.
What I can do is send you the sprites of the runes, because those are available. But so I was gonna suggest, but it's only a limited number of runes. Like, well, you can do a language with a limited set of symbols. Absolutely,
you can make an entire language with 26 letters.
Yep.
And a couple marks of punctuation.
You can do it with way less, as I'm sure you've seen in your exploration into conscripts. Like, what do you call like
more real life languages? Lots and lots of conlangs will have their, or neographies, constructed scripts will have their inventories be larger than the English alphabet. There are real life languages though that only have like 11 consonant sounds. English has about 25.
Yeah. So like, yeah, you could, in theory, you could absolutely make a complete language out of this set of runes, but what would it say? Like, the only ones who can really answer that are the devs, who would know, well, what is the word of Chaos God? And this is super important, because if you visit Chaos God, if you go fight Chaos God and you have a runic weapon, Chaos God will literally steal/absorb that from you. He will literally like rip the runes out of you. Yeah.
He eats it.
But if you show up with the only weapon with green runes in the game, which is Hand of the First, which has Warden's runes, he won't do that. That is the one exception where like
he doesn't like vegetables.
Yeah. But there is this kind of weird illusion, like, yeah, not only are there multiple languages, they kind of interact in this very particular way, which is fascinating. But that's all we get.
And also, Chaos God doesn't like vegetables, apparently.
Yeah. But the I think the best way to sum it up is that like language, it certainly does play a big part in Star of Providence. There's just not as much depth or detail to it, but those languages do exist, and we do wield them, and there are separate scripts for separate enemies, and all of it's just really fascinating and just really, really ripe for like fan theories and
and headcanons.
And headcanons.
And my eternal hope / headcanon generator is, how do we know it's gibberish if we haven't looked yet?
I mean, presumably, just you're going to the code and like, yeah, it's just randomly selected. There's no pre-constructed phrases.
Probably, but a girl can dream, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's what this podcast is for. And Pure, don't you dare come in and squash our dreams. Don't do it. Don't do it.
Don't do it.
Keep trolling me. Keep pretending you can read my monolith shirt.
I have beaten Warden at least once.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Take
It
that,
was
Pierre.
like tier 1 or 2, but
Still counts.
Oh, I have bad news for you. They made a Warden worse.
how did they make Warden worse?
Oh.
Let me count the ways.
Actually,
You
okay,
sweet
no.
summer child.
Okay, I think it's more like they made Loop Warden way worse, like significantly worse.
Good thing I can't loop then.
Yeah, but then you never get to see like the DB13 script.
Aw.
No, it's okay. Like this is all like honestly, we're getting into the end game part of the game. That's like okay,
Yeah,
like here's the
I
thing.
am very much making fun of myself here.
Yeah, people in the Discord talk like, oh, I'm not a good player or anything. I have to remind them, the fact that you even got here already means you're at the top 5% of the entire player base. Come on, guys.
Let me check my achievements, because I had 1 successful Overlord kill. 1.
I mean, you're a busy person. You have conlangs to make and analyze and other games to enjoy and sessions with, like, it's okay. Not every hobby can get our full can get all of the hyperfixation energy, you gotta pick and well, you don't choose, but it can't be all of them by default.
So true. Yeah. Nerd, thank you again so much for coming onto the podcast. We really appreciate it. This has been a super fun conversation.
Oh yeah, thank you guys so much for having me.
Yeah, it's been a delight to get to talk to you once again after quite a while. And Nerd, do you have anything you want to plug? Where can people find you if they just want to see more of the cool things you get up to?
Well, I am ApprenticeNerd on Tumblr.
Mm-hmm.
Or Sassy Dragon on AO3.
Mm-hmm.
And that's about it. I haven't updated my DeviantArt. Oh, Pix Dragon on Artfight, which just ended, and I didn't do that much this year, but
I saw 2 of the entries. They were very good. Yeah, thank you so much, Nerd. It's been a delight. I hope I can find another excuse to bring you in at some point, but
at some point,
maybe if DLC 2 adds more, who knows?
I was gonna say, yeah, some new runic clues may drop, and then we'll bring Nerd back to help us with the analysis. Thanks so much for listening to our Star of Providence fan cast. Big thanks, as always, to Garoslaw and AlexMdle for allowing us to use their music and sound effects in the podcast. Our intro music was made for us by Garo, and we love it. Thanks, Garo.
You can listen to all of Garo's delightful Star of Providence music over at his Bandcamp at Arc of Dream at Bandcamp. You can find Volume 1, the After the End soundtrack, you can find Volume 2, which is the Relics of the Past and Into Oblivion soundtrack, and the 5th Anniversary Edition soundtrack. Thank you for everything, Garo. We really appreciate it.
If you have any comments or suggestions for the show, you can reach out to us on our Discord server. We'll post the server link in the show notes.
And there you can find fellow pilots to talk with and discuss the show. Thanks for listening. We'll hope you'll join us next time.
This is what you came for, isn't it?
So be it.